This is me 2 years ago. Chonky, uncomfortable in my skin, and like Post Malone's face tattoo, always tired. This is me today. I may not look like Thor, but I feel pretty damn good about my physique, and I have way more energy on a day-to-day basis. And in this video, I'm gonna walk you through how you can achieve exactly the same results starting from any point. There's a big difference between going on a diet to look good for a month and getting into shape to look and feel good for the rest of your life. If your plan is to go on a diet and lose as much weight as possible for 4 to 12 weeks so that you can go back to living exactly how you do right now, then a year from now, you're going to look and feel exactly how you do right now. Once you get into good shape, you need to continue the habits that got you there for you to stay there. And that may feel overwhelming, but the good news is that somewhere along the way, what was painful becomes fun. There's a really fulfilling joy I get from seeing my hard work in the gym and the kitchen paying off in the mirror and on the scale. And as you start feeling so much better, you quickly realize that the trade-offs are well worth it. Feeling amazing after a Saturday morning workout instead of being hungover makes it well worth it to not get schmammered on Friday. So go into this understanding that if you're gonna have a six-pack 1 or 2 years from now, you're gonna become a different person along the way. But enough waxing philosophical, let's get into some protocols. My recommendation for training is pretty simple. Train 5 days a week. Do 3 to 4 days of resistance training, then 1 to 2 days a week do either 20 to 30 minutes of HIIT or 60 minutes of cardio. And that's just depending on your preference. I wouldn't recommend that you train more than 5 days a week because you're playing the long game here, so you need enough time to recover, especially if you're going hard in the resistance training and HIIT workouts that you are doing. I promise you, if you're working out 7 days in a row, you're probably gonna burn yourself out pretty quickly. But here's 2 examples of how you could set this up. Option 1, do resistance training 3 days a week. On Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you could do a push-pull leg split. So Monday, you're doing pushing exercises, Wednesday, you're doing pulling exercises, and Friday, you're working your legs. Then you could go for a 60-minute bike ride on Tuesday, Thursday, do a YouTube HIIT workout, then Saturday and Sunday are for chilling and recovery. Option number 2 of how you could do this is doing an upper-lower split so that you're doing resistance training 4 days a week. Monday would be upper body, Tuesday would be lower body. Wednesday, you take off. Thursday back to upper body, Friday back to lower body, and then Saturday you could do a 60-minute bike ride, and Sunday you're off again. It doesn't matter if you're doing an upper-lower split, a push-pull leg split, or even a full body split. What matters is that you're doing resistance training 3 to 4 times a week. So just do whichever one you enjoy the most. My friend Victor did a push-pull leg split with HIIT 1 day a week and then running about a 10K 1 day a week. After about 6 months, he'd pretty much gone from having a dad bod to being a trophy husband. And this is at the age of 40, so these recommendations should work for a wide range of ages. Victor also followed my nutrition recommendations, but we'll get into that soon. One other thing I'd recommend is finding and following a training program. I really like AthleanX's AX1 or Jeff Nippard's Fundamentals of Hypertrophy program. AX1 has resistance training 3 days a week with HIIT 2 days per week, and Jeff Nippard's program has you doing resistance training either 3 or 4 days a week, depending on your choice, so you could just throw 1 to 2 sessions of cardio on top of that per week. Having a program is great for 2 reasons. 1, it gives you a clear goal to shoot toward. You're aiming to complete this program. 2, it tells you exactly what to do. I would not recommend going to the gym without a game plan and just doing whatever you feel like. Victor actually used a push-pull legs plan that I designed, and I'll put that in the description below if you just want something for free. You can just copy it onto your phone and then track your weights over time to see how you're progressing. And if you're traveling a lot, bring resistance bands or do dumbbell workouts at the hotel gym. I actually trained with resistance bands for a month straight this January when I was in the Canary Islands escaping the Swedish winter. I think the important thing is that you maintain training momentum no matter what comes up in your life. There are no excuses, just different circumstances that you need to adapt to. In my opinion, and lots of people will disagree with this, but in my opinion, the single most important thing you can do to start decreasing your body fat is track your calories. Track every single thing that goes into your mouth, or all the food that goes into your mouth. I use the Macro Factors app for this, but you can check out my calorie tracking app video to see which calorie tracking app might be best for you. But when you track what you eat, a few fantastic things happen. First, you see how much processed garbage you eat, and you get embarrassed by how much processed garbage you're eating, so you eat less processed garbage. And second, you're able to start setting a calorie target for each day so that you can start actually losing weight. If you want to lose weight, you need to eat fewer calories than you burn. Quick science lesson, calories are a unit of energy, so you expend calories when you're doing things with your body, and food contains energy in the form of calories. And if your body is absorbing more calories than it's expending, you have excess energy within the body, which is typically stored as fat. But if you're expending more energy than you're consuming, that energy that's stored in your body, it's gonna get used and you'll lose the fat. Most calorie tracking apps are gonna be able to estimate your daily calorie burn, and they'll also sync with wearables, so if you do a particularly difficult exercise that day, they're gonna know that you burned some extra calories. And in general, I'd recommend eating 300 to 500 calories fewer than you burn each day. In other words, you want to be in a 300 to 500 calorie deficit each day. So if you typically burn 2,500 calories in a day, you want to eat maybe 2,000 to 2,200 calories each day. And unless you're at a very high weight or body fat percentage, don't aim to go in a higher calorie deficit than this, because that leads to what I call revenge hunger.
I will look for you. I will find you. And I will kill you.
An example of revenge hunger is when I tried the OMAD diet, eating only one meal a day. I burn about 3,000 calories a day. But when I was doing the OMAD diet, I was only able to cram in about 2,200 to 2,400 calories into my mouth in that single meal. And the week after this, my hunger levels went kind of bananas, and I ate much more junk food than I would normally. And don't think you can beat this system through your willpower. I mean, you can try, but you'll see, revenge hunger is real. Just experience the revenge hunger 1 or 2 times and you'll realize that being in a caloric deficit to lose weight isn't like limbo. You don't want to see how low you can go. It's more like slacklining, where you're finding the perfect balance of the right calorie deficit that you can maintain over a long period of time. Go too far in either direction and you won't weigh less 6 to 12 months from now. Being in a caloric deficit is hard. You'll experience hunger, you may be grumpy, but there are ways to make it easier. One way is meal prepping high fiber, high protein meals. Protein and fiber fill you up much more than simple carbs and fat. Plus, if you've meal prepped 5 meals of chicken breast, sweet potato, and green beans, you can log those into your calorie tracker in advance. It's just very convenient. Meal prep makes it way easier to adhere to a clean diet. Pop in your favorite podcast, make 10 meals in an hour, and then you've got food for the next 3 days. I aim for a little bit more than 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So if you weigh 190 pounds, you want to eat about 190 grams of protein per day. Good sources of lean protein are chicken breast, seitan, tofu, non-fat Greek yogurt, low-fat cottage cheese, protein powder, and low-fat ground beef. And a quick note on fat and sauces. Most sauces are high calorie and not very satiating. So I'd recommend replacing those with lower calorie options like mustard, spices, hot sauce, or even 0 calorie sauces. You absolutely need fat in your diet though. If you don't eat fat, it screws up your hormones. So I'll typically add a tablespoon of olive oil to 2 meals per day and then go for about a handful of nuts. And I'll be making a separate video very soon about how I eat while in a caloric deficit to make it as easy as possible. Cheat meals. I think it's good to have about 1 cheat meal a week, especially if you want to eat out with friends. But if you're in a caloric deficit, you still want to make sure that that cheat meal doesn't totally blow you out of your calorie goal for the day. So if you go out, maybe have a burger and fries, but you're gonna have to skip the ice cream and beer. And make sure to always track your cheat meals. That keeps things reasonable. Like I said, caloric restriction can be difficult, but here's 5 more ways that you can make it a lot easier. Set a time that you're not going to eat past at night, maybe 6 or 7 p.m. We have the least willpower at night and we're the most tired, so we're the most likely to binge then. Setting this limit can prevent those late night binges. Don't keep junk food at home. And if your partner wants to have junk food at home, just have them put it somewhere where it's not visible to you, maybe even hide it. Replace rice and pasta with potatoes and sweet potatoes. They'll fill you up more. Stay really hydrated. It makes you less hungry. Aim to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep per night. Not getting enough sleep actually cranks up your hunger hormones. Every morning, the first thing I do is Well, the first thing I do is pee. But then, every morning, the second thing I do is weigh myself. I weigh myself at the same time every day to have maximally compatible weigh-ins. Your weight fluctuates a lot over the day, and even day to day based on your salt intake and your hydration levels. So expect your weight to vary a few pounds from day to day, even if you're losing weight. And instead of worrying about single days weigh-ins, I would recommend comparing weekly averages to track your progress. If you take the average of your weights last week, and it's exactly the same as the average of your weights this week, then you can take the amount of calories you ate this week and just decrease it by 300 to 500 calories next week. Then you can see if your average weight next week is about a half pound to a pound lower than this week. Weighing yourself every morning is also a good way to be honest with yourself. If you know you're going to step onto the scale tomorrow morning, then you may be less likely to reach for that extra slice of pizza tonight. I'd also recommend taking physique photos every 1 to 2 months. Sometimes you won't see much change on the scale, but you'll realize there's a lot of improvement in the mirror. And that's probably because you were turning fat into muscle. Progress photos are embarrassing at first, but it feels amazing to go back and look at them over time. It's a great motivator to keep going. I've found that there's pretty much no way for me to improve my physique if I'm drinking alcohol. Alcohol doesn't just burn through your calorie budget. It also makes you hungrier, and it makes you sleep worse, which makes you more tired and decreases your willpower and makes you more hungry the next day. It's kind of a cascading chain of making being in a caloric deficit really miserable. And not to mention hangovers, which make it much less likely that you're going to train tomorrow. A small number of people will be able to keep a six-pack physique while drinking a moderate amount of alcohol, but no one is going to be able to get from 30% body fat to a six-pack while still drinking. So if you're serious about getting your dream physique, make an agreement with yourself right now that you're going to go 30 days without drinking alcohol. Then in a month, when you haven't had a hangover for 30 days and you've lost 5 pounds, you'll probably say, yeah, I think I could do this for another 30 days. Diet and training are literally all there is to getting into great shape, which sounds simple, but it can be hard as hell to implement, especially when you're balancing a demanding job, a social life, maybe kids, and anything else life throws at you. So it's important to make eating right and training consistently as easy as possible, so you can stick with it. Consistency will beat out training hard and a crash diet every single day. And even if you crack one night and end up eating an entire carton of Ben & Jerry's fish food, not saying that I did that last Sunday, it's just an example, but if you do go off the rails for a meal or for a day, just log all the calories and jump right back in the next day. Don't try to eat 1,000 fewer calories or run a half marathon the next day to try to burn off the excess either. Just aim for a 300 to 500 calorie deficit the next day. Consistency will crush any drastic short-term measures. To make sure I train consistently, I work out first thing in the morning. This way I've gotten it out of the way before I get fatigued from work and all of the stresses of the day. It also frees me up for social stuff in the evening. And meal prepping 1 to 2 times a week also ensures that I always have healthy options at hand. And if you're just starting out, a good way to keep yourself consistent is tell all of your family and friends that you're about to start a body transformation journey. This holds you socially accountable, which is a great motivator for people, but also sometimes the people around us can pressure us into less healthy behaviors, and if everyone knows that you're going into a concerted effort to transform your body right now, they're likely to be more supportive. Of course, circumstances will differ, but if you think that would work for you, you could give it a try. And there's no other secrets to it. Train 5 days a week, train hard when you train, eat at a 300 to 500 calorie deficit with a high protein, high fiber diet, and then you'll get shredded. You can 100% do it. Just take these details, put together a plan for how it could work in your life, and then you can absolutely change the course of your life. Well, anyways, that's all I have to say about that. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you want to see more content like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks.